Hi, this is TUSDarryl, and welcome to my review of Alan Wake, a game where you write about the writer's writer, who writes the writer's script, who scripts the writer's script, dialogues the writer's script, and more writing terms. Jokes aside, let's get into the story. So in Alan Wake, you play as Alan Wake, an author suffering from writer's block and various other personal issues like alcoholism and whatnot, and you go on vacation with your wife, Alice. You go to this place called Bright Falls, and they're about to suffer. They are about to suffer, but what I mean to say is they're about to celebrate an event that they have I believe it's every year, called Deer Fest. During this time, Alan is supposed to relax, supposed to get away from writing, hopefully clear his writer's block, but then Alice gets him a typewriter, hoping that he could just write and make himself feel better that way. Alan gets mad, storms out, suddenly everything goes dark, and now Alice is taken into the darkness, into the lake. Alan is missing a week of his memory at this point when he wakes up next time. So then you're left with Alan, who has to go find Alice, figure out what happened during that week he was out, keep from jumping at the shadows. So let's talk about the graphics. This game is pretty dated in its appearance, but it still holds up really well to this day. Its lighting, of course, is really good. I mean, it has to be, because you got a dude who uses a flashlight as a weapon, and lights in general are weapons, so lighting has to be placed and done in a really smart way, and this game does it in a really great way. Texture work is I'm trying to avoid the word phenomenal, but texture work is really good. Let's say that, because I'm starting to hate using that word phenomenal. But texture work is really good. Everything looks as the way it should be. It doesn't get off-putting at all. There's a lot of attention to detail. Every environment you see is different, with the exception of the forest, but forests are going to look samey here and there. Enemies look creepy. Shadows jump at you, quite literally, sometimes. But the game still looks great, even in its darkest moments. Moving on to sound.
Place that was its home and prison. It was hungry and in pain. It dreamed of its nights of glory when the poet's writing had called it from the depths and given it a brief...
Okay, so here I'm going to combine sound and I'm going to combine music. The music in the game is so good. It's a lot of licensed music, but it's music that fits the theme of Alan Wake. It fits the feel and whatever else you're supposed to get out of the story. Sound-wise, the game sound is done really well. As you are traveling from place to place, encountering NPC to NPC, enemy to enemy, the sounds and the way it's separated, it all works together in a really great way. Now, sometimes things do get a little muddled. If there's too much going on, you have a hard time picking up what's happening in one location, what's happening in another. Sometimes you're in a fight with multiple enemies, but there are also floating objects that are coming at you, so you got to keep an ear out for all that. And sometimes you can all stack on each other. So in the cases when there isn't a lot going on, I mean, it sounds great. In the cases when there is a lot going on, it's kind of hard to tell. So sound can range from great to confusing. It's not a deal breaker, but it can get a little frustrating when you can't tell what's coming at you from what direction. Gameplay. Alan Wake utilizes a system where you're not only firing your gun with one hand, but you're also using your flashlight with another. The flashlight weakens enemies to the point where you can shoot them and kill them. However, the light also heals you. Now, why you can't just point your flashlight at yourself and heal yourself, I don't know. It probably would have been broken and overpowered. I'm not sure. But in cases like that, when you need to heal, you need to go find a light source of some sort. Typically a street light that's shining right down on you. That's also where it checkpoints and autosaves. Gameplay in terms of enemies to bosses. Bosses are really tricky to fight because Alan himself does not move well. And I don't mean that in a way where he's like badly animated or anything. He's just, this guy, he gets winded from running for like 10 seconds. Sebastian runs faster than him, and Sebastian, I'm referring to Evil Within right now, Sebastian also runs a bit longer than him. But Alan, he'll get tired. But then, and now I know I'm just comparing a detective to an author, but still, that aside, it's Alan kind of controls a little weird too. Sometimes I want to make a hard left, I want to make a hard right, but Alan is very weighty. He's heavy. Even when you're dodging, those are a lot of near misses or things that just barely hit you. Now, at the same time, I must admit that I didn't realize, or at least I forgot at some point, that I was playing the game on hard mode. I didn't remember that fact. Sometimes I'll be playing it back to back, day to day. Other times I'll be playing it maybe week to week, and I'll forget that I'm in hard mode. So the game felt very challenging, but it was a good kind of challenging. If I recall, when I beat the game last a long time ago, I was playing on normal mode. And normal mode is, from what I can recall, was pretty forgiving. Heck, hard mode is forgiving. It's just that the enemies hit a lot harder. And with the way that they set up certain fights, it's really hard to get out of those. Now, you hear me saying all this and you think, oh, that must mean that this game has some problems with, balance and whatnot. It doesn't. Every fight that I lost, I knew I messed up. Yes, you get outnumbered sometimes. Yes, you have trouble with certain kinds of enemies, but that's going to happen. Overall, Alan Wake, gameplay-wise, outside of how Alan himself controls, and don't even get me started on the way that driving handles. Driving is so shaky. And not even shaky, I just mean like you're swerving. You feel like you're driving on ice all the time. The cars float, they have no weight. And I don't understand why they didn't have weight. Now, driving, luckily, you don't have to do often in the game. But when you do, it's frustrating. With a keyboard or a controller, it's just frustrating. However, the main gameplay of using your flashlight to harm enemies or weaken them and then shoot them, it's great. The main story in of itself, the story of the game is great. If you're going to play Alan Wake, you're going to play it for its story mainly, more so than the gameplay, although the gameplay is also good. It's just a means to an end at the end of the day, however. So how do I rate Alan Wake? Do I give it a go for it, a caution, or an avoid? Now, considering how great the story is, considering how fun the gameplay can actually be, I would say go for it. However, if you're someone who's very easily triggered by weighty characters and characters that don't really respond as quickly as you want them to, if you have a problem with any of that, then I guess I'd say caution, but there's not enough here, in my opinion, to warrant a caution. Yes, I did criticize the weighty controls of Alan. I did criticize the driving in the game, but the game doesn't have you driving all that often. The game doesn't have you, fighting all that often, to be frank. You do fight at least once or twice in a major fight per, level or area, but a majority of the time, if I had to be completely honest, and this is why this review is really quick and really tricky to do, most of the time you're just sitting there watching a cutscene. The game is very dialogue heavy. It's very cutscene heavy. If the game was just the gameplay itself, going from area to area to area to area with no interruptions, it'd be a really short game. But the thing that makes it so long is that it's a game that really focuses on its story more than its gameplay. So if I'm speaking specifically to people who just love a really good story, go for it. I can't recommend it enough. Go for it. This is a story you need to experience. But if you're just looking for a game that has really good gameplay and that's what you want to hook you care less about the story, then I'd say don't get it. Don't get Alan Wake if you're just looking for a game that will allow you to explore everywhere or into most locations, like, say, how The Evil Within 2 or other games would let you just explore willy-nilly. Alan Wake is very linear, and on top of that, it's also very dialogue and cutscene heavy. So you're not going to have a lot of chances to explore outside of the moments when you're by yourself or when you're picking up random pages or out there fighting enemies. And even then, it's still pretty linear. So overall, go for it, but don't go into this game thinking that you're going to get more gameplay than story. Thank you for sticking around for my Alan Wake review. I look forward to posting more videos in the future. Until next time, I'll catch you later.